Yeah. No. Right, no, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Oh. VC, angiboni ukuthi wena la eduze kwami.
Mina.
That's good.
Khusele nga.
Yes.
Want to make a point, he doesn't walk out.
It's not true. Ngiyithathe lo nto. Basibalekanga.
Yeah, I'll correct that as I read it, yes. Yeah.
Today I read.
Greetings to everyone, colleagues, media colleagues. We are starting now. Let me just apologize from the inception for our delay. We had communicated 1 o'clock for this media briefing. Obviously, you will anticipate that when we are dealing with important matters of this nature, sometimes the engagement might go beyond what could have been imagined at the time of conclusion. So we want to apologize for that. We know you came as early as 12. Here we are now. This was an important engagement between the minister, the ministry, and all our vice chancellors. We've concluded the meeting now. It's important that therefore we communicate the outcomes of the meeting. Because of time, I know that some of the channel are live. I will avoid to do the introduction just to economize with time. But it's important that we have different leaders in the sector. Our vice chancellors, chairperson of NFSAS, the chair of chairs, councils, our minister, deputy minister, director general, and PDGs. I will then, without wasting any time, allow the minister to take us through on the statement that has been prepared, and on the basis of that, we'll allow the question and answer. The whole panel will therefore respond to all questions that might arise in the floor. Without further ado, I will allow the minister to just take us through. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for coming to our press briefing. Today, I, together with our Deputy Minister of Higher Education and Training, Mr. Nzimande, we held a meeting with the Vice Chancellors of South Africa's 26 public universities to discuss preparations and arrangements for the start of the new academic year. Also in attendance were senior representatives of the National Student Financial Aid Scheme. Mr. Nzimande, in fact, is here with us here as the chair of NSFAS, as well as a representative from the Council on Higher Education. Frank discussions were held. I expressed appreciation for the work that the Vice Chancellors are doing to create a stable situation in our universities. Vice Chancellors also expressed their appreciation for the support government has given the sector, as well as the role played by the ministry. The meeting welcomed the 6.9 billion rands additional funds that government has committed. It was confirmed that all qualifying students who have been offered a place at a university and who qualify for NSFAS funding can register without upfront payment. It was also noted that substantial progress is being made with improving the functioning of NSFAS. Each institution has payment plans in place for all categories of students. For the missing middle group of students, those who are not poor enough to qualify for NSFAS but yet are not able to afford higher education costs, the meeting noted the processes in place, including the new model of supporting the missing middle that will be piloted next year, as recommended in the Presidential Task Team report. Institutions have undertaken to address applicants on an individual basis and attempt to offer payment plans for the missing middle. The meeting agreed that this is a moment of opportunity for reinventing and innovation in our higher education sector. We need to think deeply and constructively about different models to support an affordable higher education system. The Presidential Commission recently announced is the vehicle for this, and many hopes ride on it. As has been pointed out elsewhere, our current funding model is dependent on fees, and therefore all students have to pay fees, whether funded by loans, bursaries, or families. In many institutions, registration has started, and we are encouraged by the progress made. I and the Vice Chancellor call on students to register and start the academic year without disruptions, and on parents and the broader community to support universities to get learning underway as fast as possible. We call on all concerned students, staff, and others who still have unmet demands or grievances and wish to continue protesting to engage in legitimate and peaceful forms of protest. This will negate the need for an undesirable security presence on our campuses. Violence is unacceptable. Disruption of the functioning of institutions and violating the right to learn and work is unacceptable, and damage to property is unacceptable. We can't afford more damage to institutional assets. Our preliminary damage report suggests an estimated 150 million rands of damage to public property last year in the course of protests. Fortunately, this only affects a few institutions. The current cost of security necessary to protect the functioning of our education system is exorbitant. We appeal to our groups of protesters to make this expenditure unnecessary so that it can be better spent on building our education system. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. That was the statement. I would then allow the session for question and answer arising out of the statement. If I can observe hands that want to take it first. Don't be, I can see you. Yeah, then there's only hand to hand now.
Only one.
Thank you so much. My name is Nzimande from the SABC TV. I have two questions. The first question is, can you explain a bit more about this new model for the missing middle and how that exactly is going to work and when next year it's expected to start? And the second question is about how much you're spending on security, the different universities, private security.
Thank you very much. We don't have another head for now. Oh, okay, there's a very great camera there.
Hi, my name is Mama Polani from SABC Radio News. I think my question is basically towards NAPSIS. Is there going to be a discussion in terms of criteria of which students are disqualified if the missing model? Okay. The question is to NAPSIS. Is there no plans to change the criteria of which students basically will be accepted into the funding scheme, in order to assist those in the missing middle while we're still trying to pilot this new model that's been mentioned.
Thank you very much. Well, in the absence of head, I will allow either the minister or any of our panel to respond to those questions specifically. Thank you very much.
Perhaps let me just say something, and of course, Ubaba Ngasana will have to come in, and any others. I think that you need to appreciate that the model is still being developed, although work is fairly far advanced. So I will leave that to the discretion of the chairperson of NSFAS as to how far he wants to indicate maybe some of the issues that are being looked into. Similarly with the criteria, I suppose the qualifying criteria, all those things will have to be looked at within the context of addressing the missing middle, and whether, in fact, we all agree that the qualifying criteria of 122,000 has been around for a very long time now. So it definitely is something that is also under review. Thank you.
Let me just add to what the Minister has said already, that the model is being worked on. Maybe I'll start with the question from SABC Radio. For this year, 2016, the criteria that NSFAS applies is going to remain as it is. The new model, however, is not addressing just the funding issues for the missing middle. It's addressing the funding issues for poor students and missing middle. And the criteria that it will utilize, obviously this is still a work in progress, will go beyond just the blunt instrument, or maybe rather the crude way in which the means test is applied at the moment. But it will also seek to address other challenges that we face, particularly those that are faced by poor students, including the success rates, the progression rates, the employability of students when they finish, and so on. So we're trying to create a model that is very comprehensive. In terms of where the model itself will start, that is going to be a subject of discussion in terms of at which site, at which institutions the model will be piloted in 2017. And the idea being that in 2018, the model will be fully rolled out throughout all the institutions.
Private security.
Oh, yes.
Thank you. How much the institutions are paying on private security? I think first it's important really to acknowledge that not all institutions are affected by disruptions in the country. It's only a few institutions really. Now the second thing is that the cost of a private security company would vary according to the specification that the institution has actually developed in terms of the areas of responsibilities in rendering that security. Thirdly, we haven't asked the institutions, the few that are affected, as to how much they are paid in respect to those security arrangements. We can find out that and give you the estimated cost or the actual cost at a later stage, but that information we do not have at the present moment. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much. Okay, we have a hand, Mr. Power FM.
Sorry, just in relation to the press briefing we saw on Monday with the Council Vice Chancellors calling on the intervention from community political leaders and religious leaders to intervene. Was it discussed in the meeting at all, and is there support for this? And then also we are seeing agreements being reached, or in the process of being reached, with BITS and UP at the moment. Can we expect similar concessions from other universities to see a smooth start to the academic year?
Thank you. Yeah, that was the other question.
That's for the Vice Chancellors.
So let me say a couple of things.
Sorry, is this thing working? Because it doesn't.
Yeah.
Is it? Oh, okay.
There was some discussion in the meeting about some of the issues raised. There was, as the statement read by the minister indicated quite clearly, concern about violence. There was a recognition that protest is legitimate, but that protest cannot extend beyond the boundaries of non-violence. We have, as you know, the Vice Chancellors from Gauteng University did make a call to civil society and other notables and other eminent people, and in particular to leaders of political parties to play a responsible role in stabilizing the higher education system. We did say that. There wasn't detailed conversation in that meeting, but there was a broad acceptance of that, I think. As for the concessions, some of the concessions were largely, there were discussions around what kinds of concessions some of the universities did make. The universities have discussed this largely in line with what has happened amongst the various institutions. In all institutions, there are attempts to look at first payments or related payments and to address those challenges. In all of those institutions, there are attempts to look at case-by-case situations to try and address the missing middle. The issues and challenges around NISPA students has been addressed systemically across all universities. So I think that, if you like, there is a meeting of the mind among institutions on how to address the challenges, and between the institutions and the ministry and government itself. I do want to stress that whilst we are addressing these challenges, not everything can be done in a single moment. That we have to understand that this is a process, and over the period of perhaps the next couple of months and the next year, we should all be coming together to, as the minister said, reimagine the system. We should see this as a moment of innovation, and as a moment of innovation in which we can re-establish the higher education system that at the same time enhances access, but also enhances quality of the higher education system. And I think that there's a meeting of minds amongst all role players in that regard.
Thank you very
Just
much.
to add on the issue of civil society, I think all of us will understand that education, sectors like education and health are actually societal issues. And therefore, when there is something that needs to be addressed concerning education, it's necessary to involve society. So the role of civil society, including political organizations, including religious or faith-based organizations, is critical in ensuring that the quality of education in South Africa doesn't suffer.
Thank you. Now, I'm assuming that we exhausted our session of Q&A. All of you are satisfied. On that basis, I must thank you for coming. And as we always say, we are looking forward to the positive coverage of these messages that have been presented by our principal.
Positive coverage is non-negotiable.
This was Cape Town. Yes.
Was there any hand up before I really close? I don't want to suppress. Oh, I didn't see. Sorry. I'm sorry.
I do have a follow-up specifically.
Okay.
We had a lot of concerns from some of the students that the private security that you hired had been quite violent towards the students and a bit ham-fisted in the way they tried to remove them off the campuses. What is your comment to that in terms of making sure that everybody is kept safe? That's the first one. And the second one is just to give a status update in terms of where your discussions with the SRC and the Fees Must Fall campaign is in terms of them now stopping with this protest. Has the SRC indicated that they're willing to now work hand in hand with you? Is the Fees Must Fall campaign movement also working hand in hand with you? Or are you hearing voices of dissent on the ground there?
So let me take the first issue, which is about the private security and the fact that they've been particularly hard and, if you like, more than rigorous in their engagement with the students. There's been two sets of criticisms in that regard. The first set of criticisms have to do with the evictions of students that were in the concourse, and I might add, were preventing registration from taking place. We have that entire event videoed, and we have looked at the footage, and some of the assertions made is just not borne by the evidence when you look at the video footage. So people have said they were physically stripped, and that's just, the footage does not show that. In fact, what the footage does show is the fact that some of the protesters were fairly belligerent and really had assaulted and hurt some of the private security. I have said that that footage is publicly available. If you want to attest and look at that footage, you can contact Shirona Patel, who's the head of our communications, and we have agreed to allow anybody who feels that they want to see that footage to see the footage. The second thing is, when we brought private security in, we brought private security with stringent conditions. We did not allow individuals with weapons. We had there are strict controls about what they can do and what they can't do. They are meant to ensure not hamstrung individuals. They are allowed to allow, as far as possible, people free movement on the campus. But where people are behaving in ways that are criminal, where they've broken infrastructure or tried to break infrastructure, and we've had very little, then they are authorized to actually take action, arrest individuals and hand them over to the police. Yesterday afternoon, there was an altercation where an individual vandalized a car. That individual was arrested, he was processed, and he was handed to the Hillbrow police station. And now the courts will act as per the rule of law. If there are criticisms of any individual's action, we have said bring it to the head of campus control. We will investigate the matter, and we will act accordingly should violations of any rights happen. I do want to underscore this point. The only reason those private security have been brought on is because registration was being prevented. I have cases, and I wrote an example of it, of a grandfather from Limpopo who raised money, jumped on a bus, drove for 5 hours on that bus with his grandson to register, and was prevented. That is a violation of rights of the poorest of the poor. And it should not be allowed by any public institution or any person committed to enhancing the rights of poor people in this country. We do not enhance and address inequality in our society if we reinforce and close down our university. All that security is there for is to ensure safety and security of everybody, to make sure people are not threatened, to ensure that registration takes place, and to ensure that our academic programs happen. We have had meetings with the SRC. We've had a full day's negotiations, and as you know, yesterday, both the SRC and the university has released public statements suggesting that we have arrived at concessions. We have arrived at agreements, some of which are old agreements that were determined at the end of December. Some of them are slightly new agreements that try and address some of the challenges associated with missing middle. Obviously, all of the problems cannot go away. We do have challenges. We do not want to throw Wits University or any other university into a financial crisis. Within the limits of what is financially possible, we have made some significant concessions. So every student who doesn't have money but needs to register, those who can afford it must pay. Those who can't afford it must simply fill in the form, and they will be allowed to register. All those NSFA students with historic debt are allowed to register. It's been waived. There's been arrangements made For students with missing middle with less than 1,000, the fees have been, if you like, the debt has been rolled over into 2016 and they're allowed to proceed with registration. We are working with the SRC to raise money for those between 1,000 and 5,000. We are exploring other support mechanisms. The university is working 18 to 20 hours a day to work to come to terms and work with the SRC. Whether the SRC are now prepared to fully participate is something you've got to ask them. I would hope they are. We've gone in long ways with trying to address the challenges. With fees must fall, it depends who you're speaking to actually, because as you well know, there are various sections of fees must fall. We have tried to urge them that there's been significant amount of engagement. We're trying to talk to them. Some of them don't want to talk to us. Others are prepared to talk to us. But frankly, I have not heard from them yet that they are prepared to go back. As soon as, India, as soon as people are prepared to allow registration to happen, people are prepared not to threaten others, people are allowed to just simply engage in legitimate protest that is peaceful, we will reduce our security presence, private security presence. But I cannot do that so long as safety and security is threatened and registration is not allowed to happen.
Thank you very much. I think that was our last contribution. Can I then be allowed to officially close the press briefing? I know there are a couple of colleagues who want to have some vernacular. So thank you very much. Next time.
They're invited to lunch.
Yes.
They invited?
They are invited to lunch.
You are invited to lunch.
Ungathi ngesizini nje.